Hello, awesome soul. I have been lucky enough to get the amazing Gabby Kowalski from GK Global to come and have a chat with me about how she organically adds finance into her sales process, from where she qualifies to how she puts it in at the end with her offering and how she handles a few objections. Now, before we jump in, the reason why Gabby is so special and the most perfect person to be having this conversation with us is that Gabby and I actually used to have the finance brokerage together, and Gabby pretty much taught me everything I know about business and everything that I know about finance, to the point where I eventually bought the business off her, and now I have the brokerage and we work side by side together. So having her back here to have this chat, I feel so honored and blessed, and I'm super excited for her to share some wisdom with you and how you can really organically add this into your sales process and start getting paid in full from day one for your products. So welcome, Gabby.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, beautiful person watching this. Excited to share with you and serve in any way, shape or form.
Amazing.
You know?
So what I would love to do is, let's start at the top. So, and again, I always love listening to Gabby sell. So not even sell, it's more that she serves. And that's what I love about how she does this, is that the whole selling's taken out of it and it really becomes about what's the best interest for your client and how do we have them have a shift where they feel aligned to you, aligned to your product, aligned to their goals, and it's just a no-brainer next step to work with you. So in terms of when you first jump on a call with a client, now this is assuming that your client has been qualified in some way, they've come through an opt-in, they've answered some questions, they've been following you for a while. This is warm traffic that you've been in conversation with for a while, and they've gone, you know what, I'm going to book a call. And on that first call, when you're having your first chat with them, what are some of the questions you ask, and what are you listening for to know that this client is going to be an awesome candidate for finance?
Yeah, good one. Thank you. Okay. For me, budget is really important. I mean, for me specifically, because I'm supporting people to raise their abundance frequency. So I never want anyone to be spending more money than they actually have that could put them into scarcity when they work with me. And it's also why I love finance, because it means that they can actually work with me and pay their product off over a longer period of time at a smaller amount per week, and therefore be cash positive while they're growing abundance, right? So I always do ask, what is your budget? What's the ideal budget for working together per month that would have you still feel comfortable, still feel abundant, yet still honor working with me? And I ask, is it between this and that? So is it between 500, 1,000, 1,002, onwards? And when someone tells me that their budget is around the $500 a month mark, I know instantly that if it's only finance that's going to be able to support them, that my in-house payment plans are not going to be able to support them, because I don't offer long plans, I offer shorter plans. And so at that point, I deal with it straight away and say, look, I just want to talk to you about affordability and about budget to make sure that we're not going to get to the end and I'm going to give you something that you love and it's just not in your budget. So if your budget truly is $500 a month, we do have a solution, and the solution would be to use a payment plan via our finance brokerage. In order to make sure that that's going to work for you, can I ask you a couple of questions to see if you'll qualify for that payment plan? And then they say yes. Yeah. And then I say, okay, cool. Are you working at the moment? Yes, no. And depending on, are you working? Are you like self-employed? And whatever they give me there, then I'll go a little bit deeper. So if they're working, are you working like part-time, full-time, casual? And as soon as they tell me they're working full-time, I'll ask, how long have you been at that job? If they tell me like a year or so, I know we're sweet, because full-time for a long period of time qualifies for finance, provided they're not bankrupt and stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of the golden gooses. It's nice and easy full-time.
And exactly. And if, and I also know that part-timers and casual people, ideally they want to be there for about a year, and so if they tell me they're casual or they're part-time, I say, how long have you been at that job? And if they tell me that they've only been there for a couple of months, I see orange light, orange flag, and by orange, how the traffic lights have green, orange, red. To me it's like, ooh, slow down.
Metaphor.
Yeah, right. It's not like this. We deal with it in the moment, and I will deal with everything to the like ends of to the capacity that I can in order to serve this soul. And so if they're like, let's just say they're self-employed, I'll ask them, have you done your tax recently? Have you an accountant that can confirm your taxable income? Because I know that we need to find out if this person's actually going to get a check, on capacity. And by capacity, I mean affordability.
Yeah. Do they have money to pay for the loan?
And so, just to sort of go through a couple of windows, if it's like, yep, I'm self-employed with an ABN, how long have you had that ABN going for? 10 years, great. And have you done your tax, have you done your last financial tax? And of course, the one that's relevant, because if we go into a new financial year, people have until April the following year to get their tax done. So we can still use previous years. And provided they've done it, I ask them, what roughly did you have on paper? What did you make on paper roughly that you paid tax on? And then they'll tell me, 70K, great.
We can work with that.
And I'm like, okay, we can work with that. However, if they tell me that they didn't pay any tax, their accountant wrote everything off, I now know this person doesn't qualify. I know that they can't prove income, they may not have paid tax, but they also can't get finance. And if they're, employed and they've only been at a casual job for 2 months, I also know that that's a high-risk customer. And to me, it's important because at this point is when I would say, look, you're not actually going to qualify for the payment plan because, insert reason, because you haven't done your tax and they need to see income, or because you've only been at your job for a couple of months. And to work together based on your budget, we'd actually need to source a payment plan like this for you. So there's a couple of options. Either you wait a while until these, issues are fixed, do your tax, show us what you actually make, or stay at your job longer, or is there somebody else that could place the payment plan in their name? Do you have a partner? And if they're married and they have a partner, then I'd see if the partner would qualify. And this is at the very beginnings. Yes, of course, rapport's being built, and and I've asked them other questions. For me, we will ask what free trainings have they received and what they loved about them that had them book the call before we even talk about money. So there is rapport, and there's we've already established that they are all in. Yet at this point, we're not even going further until we know we can provide a solution that this person can afford. Because at the end of it, if they can't afford it, they're sad, we're sad, it's a waste of everyone's energy.
Not good. And I'll put in there just a little caveat that if somebody has had an ABN for more than 2 years yet hasn't done their most recent tax return, and here's the caveat, if they've got an accountant who will happily give them a letter, we can work with that. It's only if they can't get a letter or provide a tax return, then we can't help them.
And there you go.
I just wanted to clarify that one, because we often, if they've written everything off, often accountants will sometimes come to the table and give a letter that's a more accurate reflection of the income that's going through the business.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And so ultimately at this point, if they give me yeses, if they give me a green light where they work, they've had an ABN for 10 years, their last tax return was 120K, I know we've got a high probability that this person will go through, then I say, great, in that case, let's go through the whole process. Let's go super deep on what it is that you want to work on together. Let's make sure that the solution I have in mind is the right one for you. And at the end, I'll let you know about everything. And based on this, I do have a solution that's affordable. So yay, let's keep going.
Yeah, awesome. Now I've got a question for you, because I know this comes up sometimes, when I'm onboarding new people and I'm sharing this information of get into the nitty gritties in your first call, know who you're dealing with and ask these budget questions from the get-go, because it just allows you to have a much more potent conversation with them. Is there anything that they need to believe either about the sales process or about themselves to have them have the confidence to be able to feel comfortable in asking some of these questions up front?
Can you repeat that question again in a slightly different way?
So,
who are we referring to?
So we're referring to
the person listening to us right now.
The person listening to us
right
now.
We're talking about you.
Yes. So the question, more succinctly, So you feel very comfortable asking people about money and their budget up front. Some people, when they're taking people through their sales process, don't feel that comfortable. They get a bit like, I don't think that I've got the right to ask them those questions yet.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, so you've mentioned that you build rapport, deep rapport, before you even get to this point through your marketing content.
The marketing would do most of it. And then the very, very first stage is, of course, so, hey, like, you know, what had you booked this call? Like, what of my free activations have you received? What have you loved? You know, like, there's a little snippet of why they want to, like, why they booked it. And then we go into qualification. Mm-hmm. So, because I want to make sure that I like this person too, you know. Yet, to answer your question, there's a few different layers to this, I feel. I am very comfortable talking about money with people. There's a reason for it. I'm not asking them for me. I'm asking them for them. If, you know, how do I earn the right to pitch them a price at the end if I'm not willing to talk to them about their affordability? I feel like there's a miscongruence there.
Yeah, the duty of care.
There's a duty of care. And I'm authentically serving. I'm scanning to make sure this person can afford to work with me. Why? Because inside of the evolution, personal development, business development, success development, however you want to do, like call it, inside of the industry that I'm in, a lot of people aren't asking these questions, and they're instead just having people sign up to things they can't afford, on payment plans they can't afford, and people are hurting. And I can't watch that or be a part of that. And so to me, how can we possibly stand there and say that we're here to do things differently, that we're here to actually care for people, if we're not going to have a conversation about, hey, can you actually afford this right now? Not magical thinking, not if you do my program, then you'll be able to afford working with me, which is very different. And there are people that do this, you know. There are people that believe that when they do my program, or as soon as they enter my program, they're going to become millionaires. And to me, I just no, like that's not service, you know.
That's magic pill chasing.
Yeah, and it's just like, if I don't ask them, and I do it with so much love, and also, you know, I do say this, like I want to have a chat to you about affordability, because I want to make sure that whatever I'm offering you is affordable, it fits in your budget. I want to make sure that it's comfortable enough that you can focus on all the beautiful gifts and the learning and not be worried about paying me. You know, is that fair? And they're like, yes. And the souls I work with, they've done a lot of stuff before. They've been burnt before. They love it when I actually give a shit about this. You know, and I'm sure if you're sitting here listening, you've probably also maybe signed up to things you couldn't afford before.
Oh my God, I have. It was the whole beginning of my journey. It was literally like budget down to the last bloody dollar. Yeah. And I wish that people had that conversation. Like, can you really afford this? Is this going to put you into scarcity? Are you going to be blocking your learnings because you're too worried about making your next payment? It's so important.
And I know this. Like, I know at the core of my being that people receive when they're in thrive frequency, not when they're in survival, you know. And the worst thing I can do they're not going to receive my frequency, my codes, the beautiful lessons when their whole primal body is active and they're freaking out and they're in their heads, you know, like,
you become the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
You become the person they hide from.
And so that's why, to me, we don't ask them because we want to make sure that we're not wasting our time. We ask them because we want to serve. Yeah. We ask them because if they really can't afford it, we want to build other offerings. So I've got lots of digital offerings, all sorts of, I've got ways I serve my beautiful souls for free. There's so much free stuff I give out. Then there's mini courses that are, like people can
business
purchase.
Launch courses,
yeah,
you've got everything.
There's so much there to service everyone at different, and I'm happy to have a 5-10 minute phone call if I'm the one doing it and just go, hey, you should purchase this. You know, start here, do my abundance code stuff, then come back to me when you can afford.
The amount of people like I've seen like come through your free stuff, like I think it was one of the gorgeous souls had been doing your marketing with Vino for 12 months before she'd been able to create.
It was a podcast.
Within 12 months of implementing what we shared on the podcast, her business was at a level to make enough to join the mastermind. It was so beautiful, like listening to her story and how she really worked hard for 12 months doing these things to be able to come and join.
My free content actually helps people grow. And I feel like that's important, you know. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't want to ask people, man, we have a duty of care to look after the souls we serve. You know, if we don't, who will? If we don't change the way business is done, who will? And so for me, it's that, like, know that you're doing it. And I think it's also being comfortable in how. You know, sometimes the how is important, so it's pre-framing. Yeah. I want to have a chat to you about affordability to make sure that whatever solution I offer you is in the highest alignment for you, both, you know, with your goals and financially. So is it okay if we have a chat about affordability and your budget? And as soon as you ask that, you've got permission. And then, okay, cool. Based on what you've told me, we do have a payment plan. However, they are going to do like some checks on your income. They want to make sure that this is legitimately affordable. Can I ask you some more questions to see that you do qualify for that payment plan? And if they say yes, guess what? Are you working full-time? Full-time, part-time, casual, self-employed?
How long have you been?
How long have you been there? And roughly, what is your taxable income? You know, on paper. And as soon as you've got all that, great. Like, based on what you've told me, we should be good. Let's keep going. And, you know...
And off you go.
Yep, and off you go.
Yeah. And the other... Yeah, absolutely. The other sexy thing about doing it here is that it also helps put your person's mind at ease of, I can relax and have this conversation knowing full well what's going to be presented to me at the end is within my budget. And that is a really nice feeling for the nervous system. Because I don't know about you, but I've also been on these sales calls when I've been wanting to work with somebody and knowing that there's going to be a high ticket attached to it and not having any idea of the high ticket or if it's going to be in my budget. And even though I'm wanting to be present in the moment, there's still a little part of the monkey brain that's going, can I really relax? Can I really trust? Because I just don't know what's coming. So it just helps like put that primal part of your person at ease as well.
Yeah, and that's like, cool. Okay, well then we should have a solution for you for your budget. Let's keep going. Now, if anyone was to, like, if you do this wrong because you're awkward and weird about it, then the person can get awkward and weird. To me, objections only come when we're not comfortable. And that energy translates to the other person and the other person starts to get tense. And that's when they want more. And they could then turn around and go, but how much is it? And then you get to go, okay, like, you know, then you get to realize that when they're asking at that stage, how much is it? And you're qualifying them to see, you know, if they can afford finance on any one of your offers, then you get to realize that you've hit a nerve. That's another orange light for me, you know. And people, like, I've seen so many people just ignore these things. We'll get to that later. Is that all right? That was just ignoring. That was running the orange light.
That was hitting the gas, hoping that you don't get a ticket.
Hoping you don't get a ticket. I like that. And
doesn't always work out.
Yeah, but you want to call it, because to me, you can actually catch the nuances in frequency with someone. And you can go, hey, like, just out of curiosity, what has you asked that question?
Yep.
And then the person...
And
you listen. What has you asked that question? And whatever, like, deal with what's going on for them. You know, I just want to make sure that, you know, like, okay, cool, like, breathe a little bit. Please know I'm asking this so I know that we have a solution. We've got many different options. We still have to have a chat. We still need to go deep on what it is that you really want to acquire, and I need to find out more details from you in order to know which one of my cool things could be good for you. Are you willing to have an open conversation? Are you willing to even have this conversation be transformative and give you guidance and, you know, actually be of service? And we'll get to which one of the awesome solutions could be a fit, could be at the end. Are you open with that? And then they're like, yes. But why would we pull them up straight away when we feel funniness from them? Because whatever that is, there's now a block in their field. And, you know, everyone's different. We want to relax any block. We want this person to feel comfy. And like I said, often it will happen when we're not 100% embodied, and it gives us something to work on. Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. We want them to feel that we're there for them. We're not there to take something from them or get something from them. And it's so important that we catch these little orange lights, as you call them, and not hit the gas and run the red.
Right.
Cool. This has been amazing, like super, super powerful. Next question. So you've qualified them, they're all good, you've dealt with a few orange lights, they're feeling really comfortable, you've had an amazing chat with them, you've had great transformation, you've realized that yes, that they are aligned to one of your products. Now from this point you realize they're aligned and you go, great, so the product that's going to my product that is best suited to solve your problem is blah, total investment is blah. then what happens? So take me through what you do here. Like, what's the process that you here where you offer how much the investment is and how you offer financing? How do you like organically add this into your closing process?
Yeah, so I would say beautiful things about the product, and then I'd say, and the investment for this is $10,000. Payment plans start at only $50 per week. And based on what we spoke about before, it's going to completely fit into your budget because your budget was actually more like $100 per week. And you can pay it off faster, so we can still create a payment plan that would sit around the $100 a week mark. How does that feel in your body? And I get them to feel it in their body.
Great question.
And the reason I do this is because their body won't lie. And then they're like, oh, they'll be like, oh, that's when I want to know. Like, I want to know if anything's coming up. And if they tell me, like, that's awesome, this feels so good in my body, great, we keep going. If they tell me, oh, I'm actually like, oh, it's a bit more than I was expecting, then I would deal with that and look for me, and depending on, what it is that you're offering, I'm offering people a path to crack through into higher levels of abundance that they've ever had. And so, the souls that come to work with me, them saying yes to working with me is actually part of the biggest, what I call timeline shift. It shifts them out of one reality, or let's just use comfort zones. If their comfort zone and their minimum standard of reality is here, and they're uncomfortable to invest that 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever it might be, into working with me, then them actually doing that is shifting them from one reality to another. It's stretching them. And so I will say, okay, cool, it's normal for you to feel uncomfortable, because right now we are stretching how much you give to yourself. Where like one of your goals with coming into this container is to access a higher level of money abundance than you've ever accessed before, which means you're going to be called to invest more than you've possibly invested in yourself. And first we give to ourselves. The universe reflects that, and it's normal to feel these things. In fact, not feeling these things would mean that it's, we're not breaking through a threshold here. Yet, please know too, I wouldn't do this if this person couldn't afford it. So if they actually can't afford this breakthrough, one timeline to another, from one reality through to another, then it's not ecological. But if we know this soul can 1,000,000% afford the repayments, then this is a massive breakthrough. And it's how I built my wealth, by doing this.
My most recent one, stretched me well outside my comfort zone. And I would say I've nearly close to already had return on investment within the last 4 months.
Yeah.
It's been pretty crazy. And it was wildly outside anything that I've ever done before. And the results are proof in the pudding that it is. If you want to grow your abundance, you've got to be willing to go that little bit outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and in receiving, because if we're not comfortable with, especially when I have souls telling me that they would love to generate multi 6 or 7 figures of pure income, but if they're not comfortable to invest $30,000 in themselves for the codes and the lessons and the guidance that would actually give them access, to that, then there's that in itself, 100%. It's like, well, what would this version of you do? And so this is where I'll be like, okay, let's work through it. And I would support the soul to work through it with what I call transformational coding, where we actually get to go, okay, and now feel into where in your body does it feel funny? Okay, feel into that. What's present for you. And now imagine for a second, that you do make this decision and you're past that decision, successfully past it, and everything's flowing. Is that $50 a week really bothering you? No. Was the $50 a week worth it to shift into that new reality? Yes. And breathe and just be here. And just having them be with it is massive. Like every single being on this planet's a conscious, powerful creator when they actually look at their own shit instead of ignoring it. And so this is, and until their body feels better, until now, how does it feel in your body? Oh, that feels so much better. And it doesn't mean it's not going to be a breakthrough. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we're looking for them to, to go, yeah, I'm unstoppable now. I feel like we need to give them permission sometimes to be uncomfortable. It's okay. It's normal for this to be uncomfortable. Yeah. That's the breakthrough. It's like so many things in life that we're like, ooh, tight butt. And then when we do them, we're different forever.
Absolutely. And I think particularly the space that we're in when it comes to giving to ourselves, this is one of the biggest breakthroughs our clients will go through, because we're not, we're conditioned to think that giving to ourselves is selfish and that we should be giving to others first. And it's the biggest misconception, because unless we learn how to give to ourselves, we can never take care of another person. And I want to say here, like, what you're sharing is absolute gold. And with a caveat, not that I think that anybody watching this video needs to hear this, however, I also feel like I have a duty of care of saying that with great power comes great responsibility. And if you're not authentic in taking your clients through this process, their souls will feel it and they will know, and it won't work. But when you are truly anchored in deep divine service and you're helping this person make an empowered decision from a sovereign place, then they will love you forever for it, because this is something that they've been wanting to do, and they've just needed some hand holding to get to that place and some guidance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Interest?
Yeah. So now, what would you do if your client said, okay, cool, so we're going down the path of finance, yes, I've got income stuff, I'm happy to have this chat. However, I don't feel comfortable with paying the bank's interest. I just don't believe in it. It sucks. Like, I really don't feel comfortable with it. They probably wouldn't say it that strongly, but you get the point. How would you, how do you navigate that?
So if someone says, I don't want to pay interest,
Yeah.
then I say, okay, well...
I don't like the banks getting rich off me.
Cool. That, look, ultimately, this is the kind of stuff that does happen at the end of the conversation. And so my first question would be, well, can you afford the $10,000 up front?
No, can't. Not today.
Well, do you want to get started sooner, or do you want to save up the $10,000?
I'd like to start now, please.
Then the option is to look at the interest slightly differently. Don't look at it as interest. Look at it as you saying thank you to someone investing in you. At the end of the day, the bank is willing to give you all the money up front. So you can go and receive this now, and receive these codes now, and transform now. And you get to pay it back later. And the interest, don't look at it as interest, look at it as little thank you notes. You get to say thank you with a percentage. I laugh because people will... It's funny how we perceive this. People will look for investors to invest in their businesses, yet every investor is going to want a percentage, equity, a percentage of profits, which basically means interest. And yet, because it's perceived as I have investors, it's just a silly, wanky perception
thing. It's a super
thing.
wanker cape thing.
And so, for me, I do love to share with the souls I talk to, look, at the end of the day, it's all perception. If you honestly can't perceive that the interest is you saying thank you, like buying a bunch of flowers or a box of chocolates, if you don't believe the banks are worthy of your thanks for giving you this, then no, this wouldn't be your path, and you're probably better off just saving up the money. Yet if you're open to a perspective shift, and to see that, hey, they're offering you a service, and the service they're offering you is to give you money.
And have your dreams now.
Yeah, and you're paying them with a little bit more money. It's a service, and it costs X amount. And I feel like people need to also get that interest is just the payment for the service. Yeah. And why would you not want to pay for the service? How would you feel if people didn't pay for your service? And when I don't want to pay for your service, I don't like paying for things. I'm sharing this as a bit of a joke, yet at the same time I feel like it's our belief system in things that hold a person. And my belief system is that if we're going to go down this path, why doesn't the bank get to also be rewarded for the service it brings to the world? Furthermore, though, on top of this, because I do have payment plans, I then also say to the person, well, would you prefer to pay the interest to me in an in-house payment plan? And then they say, yes, I would. Well, my fees are actually higher than the bank's because I can't do secured, I can't guarantee.
And it has to be paid off faster.
And it has to be paid off faster, and it wouldn't actually fit into your ideal budget. So yes, you could pay me, and you could pay me the payment plan fees, yet at the same time, you'd have to pay it off faster, and you'd be paying a little bit more than the banks because I'm not a finance company and I can't facilitate a product like that.
And you're mitigating the whole risk.
So if you're truly, and once again, I'm working with people that are wanting to expand their abundance. So for me, I do link it back to this, please know we've got to be smart, with the way that we operate. And why wouldn't you take advantage of someone who's willing to give you money to do something at an amount that you so can afford? Like the repayments are so doable that you wouldn't think twice, and you're still able to grow in abundance, which means that you'll actually receive the learning so much more embodied, so much faster. Like to me, we have to break this perspective and to see the interest as a support, as a friend, to be willing to pay it with love in our hearts.
Yeah, and the little secret that, the wealthy know that I guess isn't shared as common knowledge is that most wealthy people make money off other people's money. They know how to leverage other people's money. They don't mind paying interest if they're able to get access to the funds they want now to invest in their project and 10x their return on investment. And that's really what you're doing here, and this is why it's so powerful, because you can get access to the funds you need now to work with the people that really do have the skills to help you change your life. And there's no better investment than you. You, baby, will return 10x on your investment, more than anything else. And that's worth paying somebody, I don't know, anywhere between 9 to 13% interest.
And you can also, you can also ask, hey, out of curiosity, do you have a mortgage or a car on finance? And if the person says yes, then you can say, well, why is it okay for you to be paying interest on your car or your house, yet you're not willing to pay it on yourself?
It's great.
And this, I think, is important because it starts to show
it's
people,
critically important.
Let them be with that answer. Because at the end of the day, we are the most important people in our lives, not our cars, our houses. We are the asset that will be the greatest asset we could ever hold. And if the person truly does have an aversion, like legitimately, where you can't overcome it, then it possibly won't be a fit, and you'll have to do an in-house payment plan for them because they may actually truly, you'd need to do hours and hours of therapy with them on it.
And I've got one more question for you because I'm glad that you touched on that. So, and I've just lost my question again. Oh, right. So, that was a great one. So, segue into my final question. Now, what I see sometimes the biggest challenge that coaches have is when they're at a particular level in business, they're so used to getting 80 to 90% of their clients on in-house payment plans and only 20% up front. And they struggle with this a bit in terms of offering finance from the get-go and no longer offering the in-house payment plan. So the client, the soul, however you like to connect with your person, has the option of either paying in full or taking finance. And only then, if they say no to in full, no to finance, that you offer the in-house. I find that there's a little piece in there, like a confidence piece, that sometimes they miss, or they're not giving themselves permission to actually get it wrong a few times before they get it right. So they hit that sweet spot of where they're getting paid 70% of their clients up front because they're utilizing finance, and they're having 30% on payment plans. So is there something in there, like a belief that you have or something that you've embodied that allows you to confidently offer this without having to default back to your in-house payment plan because you don't feel confident offering finance?
I truly believe that they're better off with finance if they can have it. I do have, with me it's a bit different because a lot of my clients are global. So, only my Australian clients can actually receive the beautiful services Kelly offers. And so yet if they're in Australia, I believe they're better off with finance. Why? Because they can have a longer term, they can pay it off whenever they want to, and effectively, usually the interest rate is better with the finance company than with me. To me, it's a no-brainer. Why would you not take a more flexible solution with a company that's actually made to do this? I'm not a finance company. I will facilitate payment plans where I need to serve a soul. I don't want to be a finance company. And so my belief system is they're better off with the finance. However, if they can't have it, then of course we have another solution because we're here to serve.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you. You have been amazing as always. I feel privileged and honoured that we got to have this conversation. I hope you've enjoyed what Gabby's had to share and play with it. Give yourself permission to mess it up and be a bit clunky with it. Anything you always does feel a little bit clunky.
And listen to this again, right?
Yeah, listen to this a few times. There is so much gold in here and there is so much coding. And once you get this and you hit a sweet spot, it truly will transform your business, because when you've got the capital in your bank and you're not waiting for months at a time to have it, that's when you as a business owner can do powerful things. This is where you get to change the world.
And when your clients are able to afford their repayments without a problem, that's when we get to serve at the highest, because we're not dealing with souls that
Scarcity.
are like, telling us that they can't afford to pay us this month. And, that's not fun either. So I think it works in both ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You get to be their coach and not their debt collector. Yep.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to working with you more closely. If you've got any questions about this, feel free to get in touch. And if you've loved what Gabby shared and you want to know a little bit more about her and her business, you can check her out at www.gabbykowalski.com.
He.
Mwah.
Mwah.